All right, all right. Well, good morning, friends. And today is what? Friday, May 15th. Good to be with you this morning. And today we're having a little bit of fun. Today is our Ask Anything Friday. Might have to move this to a different day of the week in the future, we'll see. But for right now, we are doing it on Friday, so it's great to be with you. Now, Marge, Sean, good morning. Ida, good morning. Cindy, good morning. Shirley, good morning. Good to see you guys all. If you're saying there's no sound, well, that's probably because Facebook decided it doesn't like our recorded music and it muted it on us. And sadly, Facebook is just like that, and there's not a whole lot we can do about that. That's too bad. Have to figure that one out in the future. Today, the question for us, we'll see how it goes, is, am I too trusting? Or to put it more positively, how much distrust is healthy? How much distrust is healthy? And this is a question that comes up, because, so here's an example. When I was in college, went to my college choir director one time with a couple of my fellow bass singers. And we felt like we had to tell our choir director, hey, we've got this low note at the end of our piece here, nice note. We want you just to know that we can't hold it as long as it is written. And so if you want us to try to do that, of course we have to buddy breathe and all these things, but it's not going to go well, okay? So there's not enough of us that can sing that low that long. We're not, Rachmaninoff's choir here. We're not a bunch of Russians. And then about a month later, we were talking with a bunch of the sopranos one time, and we got a bunch of snarky, sarcastic comments about how, well, at least we don't whine about how long we can hold our notes. We got the sopranos, we're singing all these high notes, and we don't complain about them to the choir director, and at least we don't whine about it like you basses. And that was, so embarrassing, frustrating. We were just ticked off that somehow, we don't know how, but somehow maybe they overheard us. Maybe the choir director told somebody else who told somebody else, but these sopranos found out about us. And so our big question today is, man, what about me? Maybe am I too trusting? Or do I have an appropriate amount of distrust? Because I bet we all have situations in our life that are maybe much more significant than that little thing where we feel like we have to say, I have trusted people too little. The Bible it says pretty clearly a couple of things for us. First of all, the Bible tells us that we ought to trust in the Lord. Right? Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. One of the Bible's main messages is to trust God. And beyond that, it's that we as human beings should be trustworthy people. The Apostle Paul put it this way. He said that it's required that those who have been given a trust must prove faithful. Must prove faithful. That means they must prove themselves to be trustworthy. They have to be honest in line with that trust. And I wonder, how's that go for you? How's that go for you? Because I think the Bible has got something here for us. The Bible is telling us pretty clearly to trust our God and to be trustworthy people. And to me, it seems that the Bible has an excellent insight into our current cultural moment, even if we don't necessarily feel it very well. I've been reading and looking through a man named Charles Taylor, and he summarizes James K. Smith's research, and he talks about how we live in this moment where we feel the pressure of both immanence and transcendence at the same time. He puts it this way. He says that you and I, we live in a situation of fundamental contestability when it comes to belief. A sense that rival stories are always at the door, offering a very different account of the world. Here he puts it, right? We are all skeptics now, believer and unbeliever alike. What he's pointing out to us is, it's easy to look back at all of our previous generations and say, man, our parents, our grandparents, and those people 1,000 years ago, they were so trustworthy. They were so trusting. And he's saying, it's actually true to an extent. His question always is how is it that at 1500, 500 years ago, it was almost unthinkable to not believe in God. And now, 500 years later, it's become very commonplace to not believe in God. In fact, it's become almost thinkable to say, yeah, I believe in God, and I'm a committed Christian, and I live accordingly. He's saying we live in what? We're all skeptics now. We are all skeptical. We're always wondering, is there another story? Is there another side? Is there another way to see this question in this situation? And maybe that makes you wonder. I know it makes me wonder, hey, is this situation in which I'm in right now, is there a different way that I'm supposed to look at the person in front of me? Maybe I shouldn't trust them. Maybe they're not telling me the truth. Maybe there's another whole different story to consider in this situation. In fact, one of the significant side effects of this skepticism that we live in is that one of the most common schemas that people have who are psychologically troubled in some way is that they are just full of mistrust or distrust. Psychologists seem to say that there's about 18 prominent schemas that people tend to have or tend to get, and they very frequently, like in this one, grows out of a situation of abuse, physical, emotional, something like that. But if you have this schema, then what you're going to do most likely is view the whole world through a lens of distrust. The schema, they explain it, goes like this. It's the expectation that others will hurt, abuse, humiliate, cheat, lie, manipulate, or take advantage. It usually involves the perception that the harm is intentional or the result of unjustified and extreme negligence. It may include the sense that one always ends up being cheated relative to others or getting the short end of the stick. 18 early schemas. So you can see there this person who operates with a perception of intense scrutiny. Now, not everybody, in fact, most people are not going to have this intense schema of mistrust. But the fact that it's diagnosable shows that to some extent we are probably all living with it in the culture, and there are very few healthy, trusting individuals among us. So Brene Brown then has tackled this question of what is really a healthy amount of distrust and trust. She writes, healthy distrust is this, is that we would say, what is important to me is not safe with this person in this situation. That's what healthy distrust is. You notice what she's saying there. She's not saying, I don't trust myself with you at all, but simply that I don't trust this aspect with you. What's important to me is not safe with you. You'll have to decide what it is in your life that's important to you and whether or not you can trust that with somebody else. But that's what healthy distrust is. It's not saying I don't keep everything from somebody else. I just keep this thing from somebody else. And maybe that's something that we can learn even from Jesus. Jesus said one time, he was an incredibly trusting person. He loved to be with other people. But he said one time that he would not entrust himself to them, to the people who were right in front of them, for he knew all people. We see how even our Savior did not trust himself to other people at certain times. We're not going to talk today about, so how do I build trust in healthy ways? Today our question is simply this, that am I too trusting? Or what's a healthy amount of distrust? And we can see if Jesus would do it, that he would not entrust certain parts of his life to other people. And we've got some good sound reasoning, psychology to say to us, maybe I shouldn't trust this part of myself to somebody else. Then there is a reasonable amount of distrust. That being said, Let's not forget that we live in a time where everybody is skeptical, and that includes you and I. And maybe more than anything else, we are prone to keep things to ourselves that we ought to trust and entrust to other people. And maybe next time, depending on how your questions come in the coming week, we will take up this question of how can I appropriately trust other people. But today, just this question of am I too trusting? And let's see last if anybody has any questions or comments about this. No, not seeing anything. Got any updates? Am I too trusting? No. Well, there we go. That's our question for today. And hope you can enjoy that and share that a little bit with some of the people in your life. Yes, sometimes appropriate amounts of keeping something safe, protecting it is right. But be careful, because we're all prone this time to be too skeptical. And God bless you this week. Looking forward to seeing you on Sunday for worship, 9 o'clock or 11 a.m. Until then, have a great weekend.